Action economy is an important aspect to any and every tabletop RPG. It's what happens when you have to resolve combat, puzzle, or social encounters. So I believe action economy can help you create quick encounters generally in any kind of tabletop RPG if you understand the concept around, well, action economy. So today I'm going to discuss how to better use action economy to build your encounters in your next tabletop RPG session. First, let's define what is action economy. Action economy is usually used in context to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. In D&D and all editions, it is a concept that judges a creature based on how much a creature, being, NPC, or player can accomplish within a single turn. For D&D 5e, it is an action, bonus action, and reaction that can be used in turn rotation. However, action economy doesn't only exist in Dungeons & Dragons. Action economy exists within all tabletop RPGs. Whether it's Power by the Apocalypse games, games that are forged in blades, or any and every generic system. So, knowing this, action economy isn't something specific to D&D 5e. It's simply a concept that judges a creature, NPC, or player based on how much that being can accomplish within a single turn of that game. And while they might all look different in every single game, action economy is a useful tool to understand, and by knowing it in that specific game, you can build encounters rather than on the narrative or specific to characters. You can build it based off the action economy. So, how does this affect encounters? Simple. More or less actions can be deadly or beneficial to any party in any kind of game. The more actions the players have, or that the enemies have, can change the tide of combat, social, or puzzles drastically. For instance, you're playing a fantasy RPG. Your adventuring party of 3 enters into a cave. As they venture deeper, they come across a camp of goblins who've been harassing the local livestock for months now. The players charge headfirst, facing off against 7 goblins. While the players might be stronger than the goblins, if the goblins have more actions, more maneuvers, and abilities within a single turn, then that can make a huge difference in the difficulty, deadliness, and emotional weight of the battle. 3 characters, each of singular actions and a bonus action, are at a severe disadvantage when against enemies that can do multiple actions in a turn. Now, obviously, less actions can make otherwise stronger enemies seem weak in comparison. This trend follows through combat-oriented games or games where combat is a large part of the gameplay. So, think of D&D 5e, Pathfinder, or even generic systems where you as a GM get to control how much combat the players see. More enemies with more actions can be more deadly. But I'm sure many of you are thinking this. Blurty? You do know different games have different action economy and different actions for combat and non-social encounters? You just can't fit everything in there together. Just to say that action economy can help you create encounters is kind of bogus. And you know what? You're right. It's a weird concept, and I agree when I was first thinking about this, but I think the premise is what matters. By understanding the action economy within that specific game, you'll be more capable to handle encounters by throwing more enemies or less enemies. And in fact, this method can help you show NPCs' strength and weaknesses for future encounters. In this case, foreshadowing can be a powerful narrative too, that action economy and understanding those mechanics within the game can be super powerful. This can show the actions, bonus actions, reactions, or whatever have you that might work in a game. Why? Because it hints at what the players might face against. It gives players time to strategize how they're going to approach an enemy. For instance, players are watching a Coliseum game. You see 2 gladiators decimate much of the previous competition. While the players watch, add them into the encounter as passerbys/commentators. Show some of the NPC's abilities, actions, and maybe even weapons. If they are a typical fighter at high level in D&D, say they hit multiple times. But keep it vague. Don't give all the details. If the fighters have poisoned swords, hint that maybe the person who was cut down had weird discoloration in their blood. This logic can apply to whatever tabletop RPG you're running. Maybe you're running a Call of Cthulhu game, and your investigators are, well, investigating a murder. Maybe they see hints of the monster that they're chasing after. Or maybe you want to apply this to maybe a Power by the Apocalypse game. In these games, action economy is flimsy. There's no strict who goes first, who goes second, who goes third. It's all really up in the air and depends on the GM and players in mind, but you can still use foreshadowing and action economy in a social encounter or combat encounter to show what potential things the players might be dealing with in the future. Action economy, I think, also has a narrative power. Players, if the enemies have more action or abilities when a turn, then it might have been on purpose from the GM, and if it wasn't on purpose, then pray. But assuming that your GM has some forethought, obviously this depends on the GM, but generally, a GM is careful with the kind of encounters they present. Sometimes, if an encounter seems overwhelming, look for a narrative or clever way to overcome this, or simply just run away. Obviously, different games mean different things, but if you feel overwhelmed in-game, then maybe figure out a solution to defeating the enemies, or overcoming whatever obstacle you're facing. This also allows you to lean into your character's personality. Maybe you're playing someone who's super brave and doesn't run away. So if your character doesn't run away, what are they going to do? Are they going to continue fighting knowing this is a losing battle? Or are they going to find some ingenious way to overturn the odds, knowing that they're outnumbered or outclassed? What is something your character is going to do when they know that they're outnumbered and outmatched? In this case, action economy gets super useful. Simply because you're fighting 5 versus 2 doesn't inherently mean you're going to lose the encounter. Of course, I have to be my biggest critic. This idea, this concept of using action economy to build encounters might not be the most effective at the same time. Yes, you can use this to build encounters by having more enemies or less enemies, but if you're trying to apply this system agnostically, then it might be difficult because every single RPG is different. Call of Cthulhu is different from Dungeons & Dragons, which is different from all the Powered by the Apocalypse games, which is different from GURPS, Fate, Golden Sky Stories, Maze RPG, Dot Dungeon. I could go on and on and on about every single RPG out there, but applying action economy to all of these RPGs with this concept won't hold true. So, I can't say this is perfect, but I do believe that action economy as a concept can still be useful to building encounters. What do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I sound like bullcrap? Let me know down below in the comment section, because trust me. So whether you agree or disagree, action economy can make or break encounters. Having more action of a turn can make encounters more deadly, whereas having less encounters or less actions of a turn can make the encounter more easy. It's up to the GM and players' discretion on what works best for them. By giving players and NPCs opportunities to counter that through altering the stage, giving weaknesses to the enemies, or narrative and creative solutions, this can breed a wonderful encounter for the players and GM to enjoy. But what if you're trying to make your encounters more terrifying and horrific? Well, I have a video about how to create a more horrifying and fearful tabletop RPG over here. And as always, I'm your average everyday queer host, Blurry Disposition, and I hope you all have an awesome day. Ciao!